Okay, here's a question for you. Something you probably never even think about. Why is 60 minutes in an hour? Why not 100? I mean, it's kind of weird, right? Feels totally random. And get this, why do we even write our laws down? At some point, somebody had to say, you know what, just remembering the rules isn't cutting it anymore. We need to carve this stuff in stone. So where did these huge fundamental ideas actually come from? Well, believe it or not, the answers to both of those questions, and a whole lot more, all point back to one incredible place. Today, we're diving deep into Mesopotamia. This is the civilization that basically handed us the blueprint for, well, for the world we live in right now. All right, so first things first, let's set the scene. Because you can't have these world-changing ideas just pop up out of nowhere, right? You need the perfect environment. And for Mesopotamia, that environment was everything. It was like the fertile canvas, just waiting for civilization to paint its very first masterpiece. And the name itself? It gives you the biggest clue. Mesopotamia. It literally just means the land between two rivers. We're talking about the Tigris and the Euphrates, in the region we now call Iraq. And these two rivers, man, they were the absolute lifeblood of this entire place. So you're probably wondering, how can a couple of rivers spark a whole revolution? Well, it's actually this simple but brilliant chain of events. Check it out. Every single year, these rivers would flood. Then, when the water pulled back, it left behind this super rich, fertile soil. Suddenly, farming wasn't a guessing game anymore. It was reliable. It was productive. For the first time ever, people didn't have to be nomads, constantly searching for food. They could actually settle down. They could build things. They could grow. And boom. That right there is how civilization puts down roots. Okay, so now that you have a stable food supply, people can do way more than just, survive. Now they can build. And the people of Mesopotamia, they basically became the world's first real architects of society. They were creating something nobody had ever seen before. And that is exactly why we call Mesopotamia the cradle of civilization. It's not just some catchy nickname. Nope. It's literally where organized society, the kind we recognize today, was born. It's where humanity kind of, grew up. And listen, this wasn't just one group of people doing all this. Oh no. This region was a revolving door of powerful, super innovative cultures over thousands of years. You had the Sumerians, who got the ball rolling. Then the Akkadians, who built huge empires. The Babylonians, who gave us laws. And the Assyrians, who were just military powerhouses. Each one came in and built on top of what the last one did, adding another layer to that blueprint. And here's what's so wild. Look at how fundamental these ideas are. These folks didn't just build little villages. They built the world's first cities. They created the first real governments to run those cities. And, this is huge, they developed written laws to keep everything in order. I mean, stop and think about that for a second. Cities, governments, laws. Sound familiar? Yeah, it should. All right, so they built the basic structure of society. Got it. But what about the tools? The things that make it all tick? Let's get into the inventions that really change the game, the core components of this incredible blueprint. So, where do you even start? With writing. The Sumerians came up with one of the first ever systems of writing. It's called cuneiform. And this wasn't about writing epic poems or anything, not at first. It was all business, super practical. Like, how do you track who owns what sheep or how much grain is in the warehouse? Simple, you write it down. Record keeping, that's the invention that lets a society get complicated. In this brings us right back to that question from the beginning. Once you have writing, you can create something completely revolutionary, a written code of law. The Babylonians, led by their famous king Hammurabi, put together one of the earliest and most complete legal codes ever. Suddenly, it wasn't about he said, she said anymore. The rules were right there, carved out for everyone to see. I'm sure you've heard the saying, an eye for an eye, right? Well, that phrase comes straight from Hammurabi's code. It set up this idea of direct, tit-for-tat justice that was super clear, super easy to understand. And that basic idea became a foundation for legal systems for thousands of years. But of course, their genius wasn't just about big ideas. It was about hardcore technology too. We're talking about the invention of the wheel. That changed transportation and even how they made pottery. They came up with better plows, better farming tools. They even engineered these amazing irrigation systems to manage the river floods and get water to all their crops. These were real-world solutions that literally powered their entire civilization. But hang on, there's one more invention. This one's a math thing, and it's going to take us all the way back to our very first question. It all comes down to this number, 60. What was so special about the number 60? Here it is. The Mesopotamians created a number system that was based on 60. We use base 10, 1 to 10. They used base 60. And that one choice, a decision they made thousands of years ago, is the only reason we have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. It's literally an ancient mathematical echo, ticking away on your phone or your watch right this very second. How cool is that? Okay, so let's pull this all together. What's the big takeaway here? This isn't just a dusty old history lesson. The legacy of Mesopotamia, it is alive and well. It is actively shaping the world that you and I live in every single day. Just think about what we inherited from them. Written laws that keep society from falling into chaos, writing and record keeping, which makes our whole economy possible. The entire idea of a city with a government. And yeah, the way we tell time. These aren't just Mesopotamian ideas anymore. They're fundamental human ideas. And they all started right here. The ideas that sparked to life between those two rivers, they didn't just stay there and die out. No way. They spread like wildfire. They evolved, they were adapted by cultures all over the globe, and they became the bedrock for just about every modern civilization. The blueprint they drew up, it became the blueprint for the entire world. So that kind of leaves us with one last thing to chew on. If something as simple as telling time is a direct hand-me-down from an ancient civilization, what other invisible ideas are out there? What other ancient rules are quietly running in the background of your life right now? What parts of our world are built on these ancient foundations that we just never even think to question? It's pretty fascinating when you stop and think about it.